Finally, Donnie Rightside. The people have listened to us here at the SportsGrid Network. Our wonderful producer, Joe Frizo, behind the scenes said enough is enough. It's Tuesday, July 9th. It is time for football. As we look forward to the 2024 National Football League campaign, it's Win Total Tuesday. We have 8 Tuesdays until the start of the 2024 National Football League season on Thursday, September 5th. 8 Tuesdays that we will spin around all 8 divisions in the National Football League. That is good planning. On the early line, DRS, are you excited?
We're excited for the NFL to begin underway, and quite frankly, I thought the NFL, we might have waited till next week where, sort of a dead time in sports, but it's never too early to get started cooking here in the NFL, so let's get after it here.
Can't make this guy happy. We don't talk enough football, then he wants to wait a week until we're in the All-Star break. We'll still have Win Total Tuesday next week ahead of the MLB All-Star game as well. We start in the AFC East, an incredibly compelling division once again, as was the case last offseason after the New York Jets acquired Aaron Rodgers. Drama follows that guy around, and that is the case once again entering 2024. But still at the top of the division with the highest win total, it's the Buffalo Bills. 10.5 is the number on those Bills from Western New York. They are the favorites to win the AFC East division at plus 165. 20 cents in front of the New York Jets. 9.5 the win total for Gang Green, plus 185 the number. The Miami Dolphins also a win total of 9.5, plus 210 the price on the Fins to win the AFC East. They were slated to do so last year before the Bills rallied down the home stretch of the regular season, knocking off Miami in the regular season finale to win the AFC East crown for a 4th consecutive season. Then the Patriots bring up the rear. 4.5 is the win total for New England after a 4-13 season a year ago, and a new era, of course, in Foxborough after nearly 2.5 decades under Bill Belichick. Gerard Mayo steps up and in. What is your assessment first overall, Donnie, from the AFC East perspective?
I think with those numbers, they make the most sense here. And also, some people thinking that maybe the Buffalo Bills will take a true step back. Didn't have a great offseason because they had to restructure contracts and certainly moved on from Stephon Diggs, drafted a young rookie wide receiver who's supposed to take over for one of the better in the past 5 years wide receivers in the NFL in Diggs. We'll see if that plays out. But you take a look at that win total. It's 10.5. It should be there because just having Josh Allen on your team, if he's healthy, that's probably good enough for double-digit wins. He's in that category like, oh, is Patrick Mahomes still with the Chiefs? Yeah, they'll be just fine the next year, regardless of who's on their team. I do like the mix of talent they have at the wide receiver position. Got some speed, got some young talent, and also still a solid secondary, even though they had to move on from a couple guys. Now, if we take a look at, and I know it's hard to do because you don't know exactly how these teams are going to function next year, and look at the schedule, it's a pretty tough one here. So getting 11 wins next year will be a very good accomplishment for the Buffalo Bills. If you take a look at the start of their season, it's against Arizona. They should win that. But after that, you're not getting very many layups here. At the Dolphins, the Jaguars, at the Ravens, at the Texans, at the Jets, the Titans, who I do like some of the moves that they made at the wide receiver position and should be decent as long as Levis is a good quarterback. At the Seahawks, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Rams, the Lions, the Patriots, Jets, and then Patriots. Only 2 layups might be at the end of the season in late December and early January with the Patriots. So you take a look at that 10.5 and say, yes, it's a 17th game schedule, Ben. They should easily get there. But then you look at the schedule, just based upon some of the teams, what you thought of them last year, that is a tough schedule. But again, you got Josh Allen. There are no excuses. He's supposed to win his fair majority of those games.
DRS, our guy Warren Sharp, of course, the lead NFL analyst on the SportsGrid network with his team at Sharp Football Analytics, does a great job each and every offseason of compiling their strength of schedule metrics based on projected win total of opponents for the upcoming season in 2024. They factor in things like rest advantage, rest disadvantage, all of those things that add up to the weekly odds and spreads and numbers that we see for individual games in all 18 weeks of an NFL regular season. The Buffalo Bills have by far the hardest schedule of teams out of the AFC East, the 10th most difficult around the National Football League this upcoming season. But based on trends, Buffalo should be the favorite to win this division. Even with a change in cast and crew in Western New York, the Bills should contend because they have Josh Allen. 4 consecutive AFC East divisional crowns. All 4 years, the Buffalo Bills have won at least 11 regular season games. That is expected to be the case once again. Are you betting against that idea in Buffalo? I feel you are more optimistic on this Bills organization than maybe some others after a changing offseason in Buffalo.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes you're right about that because I talked about this many times. You take a look at the Buffalo Bills for the past couple years as that it team in the AFC. Now is finally their season. They're supposed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They get them in their own building. They can't get it done. So, you know what? Not a great offseason. You trade your best wide receiver. Things might be looking on that downshoot here, but I don't believe that. Sometimes you talk about those. It's not a buy low spot, right? Because they're not, hey, to pick third out of 4 teams in their division. We're still picking them to be the favorites in the division, but I don't know if they have that lightning bolt on their name anymore where you say to yourself, like, I have to take the Buffalo Bills. I think they're the best team in the AFC. I think some other teams in the public perception, let's just say, have passed over the Bills, where maybe in the past couple of years, the Bills were always at the top of that mountain here. So I am higher on the Buffalo Bills than, let's just say, the majority of the public here because, again, if Josh Allen is healthy, they're always going to be a good football team. It's just a matter of can they produce in the playoffs when that ante gets upped against teams like the Chiefs that have been there and done that.
And that's been the story for Buffalo. The 4 years, winning the division, never an AFC title, only one AFC championship game appearance. 3 of the last 4 years bounced by the divisional round. In fact, the last 3 seasons consecutively. 3 of the 4 years winning the AFC East, bounced by the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills, the 4th best number to win the AFC title overall at plus 750, despite being the favorites to win the AFC East. Not all that far behind in either of those categories, Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Donnie, entering last year, I was not overly optimistic on the odds outlook for Gang Green with a quarterback near 40. Of course, Aaron Rodgers injured 4 offensive snaps into the year. It went into a tailspin quickly for New York. The odds optimistic entering 2023, and once again with Aaron Rodgers recovering from the torn Achilles last year, the odds optimistic entering 2024. Do you match the optimism and the expectation from the odds perspective?
Here's what I'll say. You take a look at the New York Jets entering into this year as opposed to last year, right? You had high expectations because Aaron Rodgers was coming over, a Pro Bowl quarterback. You just wanted average Aaron Rodgers, and they might have been able to make a run to deep in the playoffs in the AFC, if not a Super Bowl, right? So you take a look at how it played out last year, and all you kept saying, Ben, on a week-to-week basis from the Jets is, I don't even need all-pro quarterback play. Just give me a competent quarterback, and the Jets probably make the playoffs. Now we're thinking Aaron Rodgers this year, if he's healthy, should at least be a competent quarterback and maybe an all-pro quarterback. They should make the playoffs because just look at their defense. They got pass rushers. They got dominant linebackers. They got great secondary play, which includes Sauce Gardner and a couple other guys that can really get after it in the slot. You added Mike Williams, who might not be ready to start the season, but that's an added weapon for Aaron Rodgers. You take a look at Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall in the backfield. All the components are there, except what are we getting out of Aaron Rodgers this year? Is there going to be too many distractions? Because if I'm getting Green Bay Packers Aaron Rodgers, yeah, they'll probably win this division. If I'm not getting Green Bay Aaron Rodgers, who's more consumed with stuff outside of football than with football, and or he gets injured, this could be a calamity of a season. This team, more than ever, you could see either way. If you told me right now, Ben, the Jets win this division and make a deep playoff run, I would believe you. Or the Jets to miss the playoffs altogether, I would believe you as well. It's a tough team to wrap my head around, to be honest.
We are going to continue the New York Jets conversation on the other side. But I will say this. The Jets have a minus 172 number to make the AFC playoffs. The New York Jets have the longest active postseason drought, not just in the National Football League, but the 4 major men's North American professional sports leagues at 13 consecutive years. Will this year be different? Find out next. What does success look like for the New York Jets in 2024? If you base it off the odds, anything less than contending for an AFC championship would be seen as a disappointment. If you base it off New York Jets football the last decade plus, just getting to the playoffs would be a breath of fresh air, as they have failed to do that 13 consecutive seasons. And yet, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, a minus 172 favorite to see the NFL postseason. 9.5 the win total for New York here on Win Total Tuesday. The over has the hefty juice at -168. The last time the New York Jets won double-digit games, that was 9 years ago in 2015. They didn't even make the playoffs in 2015. The last time the New York Jets saw the postseason, that was 13 years ago in 2010. Donnie, will the New York Jets be a playoff team in 2024?
Just based on talent, I would have to say yes. Because if I'm saying to myself, well, Aaron Rodgers is going to get hurt 3 games into the season, well, of course they're not going to make the playoffs. You can say that about a lot of franchises with their superstar quarterback. I have to go with the public side here, the -172 price here. I do think they'll be in the playoffs because that defense is too good. And if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, that should be good enough to get close to 10 wins, which should be able to put you into the playoffs here, Ben.
So the New York Jets trying to snap that 13-year postseason drought, as I said, in the 4 major men's professional sports leagues in North America. That's the NBA, MLB, the NHL, and, of course, the National Football League. It is the longest active drought in all 4. I would agree. They should be able to do that. I remain skeptical. Until I see it, I'm not sure I will believe it. There's the off-the-field issues and the drama that Aaron Rodgers causes, despite being the biggest hypocrite in the world, saying we need to erase all of the out-of-facility distractions. And yet that drama always finds one guy. He wears 8 and plays for the New York Jets. But here's what you can say about New York. 4th easiest schedule, according to Warren Sharp and his team, entering 2024 based on those win total projections, and a defense that was top 10 by the end of last year in terms of their scoring defensive output. There is talent, but what Aaron Rodgers are we going to see? Off the field issues and the drama and distractions aside, Donnie, and I don't even think skipping mandatory minicamp will have any impact on the X's and O's or the football output this upcoming year. He's a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a torn left Achilles. And you mentioned, are we going to get Green Bay Aaron Rodgers? Up until 2022, if that's the case, they're winning 11 games and maybe making a deep playoff run. But his worst statistical career year was his final year in Green Bay, 2022. We have not seen Aaron Rodgers play good football now in 2 years. Again, until I see it, I'm not sure I believe it, and I'm not sure I'm betting it.
No, and rightfully so, which I can't condemn you for doing that because what we saw last year was a disaster on the field and off the field. We're just expecting him to be an older, similar version to himself. And again, is that an MVP level? We don't know about that. But if we're trying to take a look at next year, you're just saying to yourself, give me average play at the quarterback position. We're so talented around it, we'll make things happen. But it is crazy to think about the Jets not making the playoffs for 13 straight seasons. But also keep in mind, Ben, if you remember all the hype coming around for Aaron Rodgers, going into that room for solitary confinement for 4 days, coming out and saying, you know what? Like he's the groundhog. I want to be a New York Jet. And away he goes off to being the Jets. They still only had a win total, Ben, around 9 to 9.5 games. So even though you thought like, wow, that's going to make a big difference, usually a big difference would be okay. 10.5, 11.5, 12.5 wins as your total. They were still under double digits last year because of how tough that division and how tough the AFC is at this point. We'll see how that stacks up. I'm just a little bit more optimistic based on what I know from Aaron Rodgers without the injuries. And last year, they were abysmal at quarterback and still won 7 football games. He should be worth at least 3 more wins at this point, no?
You would think so. And again, all of the offensive pieces around him, a healthy Breece Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Mike Williams now. There is so much to like on the offensive side of the football, and that's not even the defense under Robert Saleh, who was the only saving grace for Gang Green a year ago. How about the Miami Dolphins, the only other team to reach the postseason out of the AFC East a season ago? Many thought it would be New York. It ended up being Miami. The Fins won 11 games a season ago, well over their projected win total of this year at 9.5. Much like New York, the Dolphins win total 9.5, and the over has the juice. Miami also a minus money, odds-on favored number to see the AFC postseason. Will Miami be there once again?
I think they will be in the postseason once again. You take a look at last year, and sort of unfair. How injury ravaged was that defense, Ben, coming down the stretch from what we saw? And also, wouldn't it have been such a fun game to see temperatures around 50 degrees at Arrowhead Stadium when the Miami Dolphins took on the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, as opposed to minus 50 degrees, which you knew was really going to hamper that Miami offense? They are absolutely loaded. The one thing we wanted to see last year, Ben, out of Tua Tagovailoa, wasn't play at a high level necessarily, was can you just be there healthy without getting any concussion issues? And he didn't have those issues. Now, this year, I believe I could get open as the third wide receiver if Waddle and Hill were opposed to me. Odell Beckham Jr. is in name only at this point. Can he contribute? Maybe a little bit there. He was absolutely insignificant in Baltimore, and you saw the playoffs. They didn't even look at him half of that game. So just that name recognition seems kind of nice. I don't know what type of impact he's going to have. They got speed in the backfield for days, one of the best play callers in football, and for a regular season football team, barring disastrous injuries, yes, they should be right around that 10-win mark here and making the playoffs once again in 2024.
Minus 140, the number on Miami to see the postseason. I would believe in that once again. Defense has to be better. Vic Fangio no longer there. Apparently the players like the new DC in South Florida a little bit more. In terms of the overall outlook, even if I like betting minus 140 for Miami to see the playoffs, or maybe better yet, over 9.5 at minus 122, because with how competitive the AFC looks to be, if you're not getting to double-digit wins, you're probably not going to sniff even the wild card hunt within the AFC. I'm not overly optimistic that I would bet the Fins number at 12-1 to win the AFC title. I think they have a certain ceiling as things stand currently in Miami. So 3 teams favored to make the playoffs within the AFC East, in one that might already be looking at the number 1 overall pick for 2025. The New England Patriots next. Live right here on the early line on this Win Total Tuesday, forecasting the football season to come in 2024 with a focus divisionally on the AFC East. 3 teams in this division expected and favored to reach the postseason. The Bills, the divisional frontrunners. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, minus 172. Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, a minus 140 price to see the playoffs for a second straight season. And then there's the New England Patriots. 4.5 is the number on the Pats in the first year under Gerard Mayo. 4.5 the win total for New England DRS. It is the lowest in all of the National Football League. The worst win total out of all 32 NFL organizations. When's the last time we said that about the Pats? Back in the mid-90s before Bill Belichick took over?
I mean, it's great stuff. I mean, this is what the rest of the NFL is absolutely have to love. So if you are the New England Patriots this year, Robert Kraft, here's what I advise you to do. Have a giveaway each game for something of a Tom Brady item. Maybe it's one of the jerseys sponsored by our local union. Maybe it's a Tom Brady hat. Maybe even like game number 3 or 4, surprise and say, ooh, let's tease this. Tom Brady's going to appear at halftime and just say a few words to the crowd. That's all you have to look forward to at this point right now. But at this point, if you are the New England Patriots, the question marks around are you just going to let your young quarterback rip early in the season, or are you going to wait? It's unbelievable. You're right. This is a 17-game season now, and the New England Patriots, not 14.5, as it probably would be in Tom Brady's prime, but 4.5 here. And also, Ben, if we take a look at that schedule, let's just say you don't want to put Drake May out there and you're just going to go with Jacoby Brissett. Week number 1 at the Bengals. Week 2, Seattle. Week 3 at the Jets. Week 4 at the 49ers. Week 5, Miami Dolphins. Week 6, Houston Texans. Week 7 at the Jaguars. Week 8, the Jets. You got to be kidding me with that opening schedule. Yeah. Gerard Mayo might not even make it a halfway through the season without people already calling for him to be fired. But it's not his fault. This is a disaster roster built by Bill Belichick's inefficiencies over the final couple of years without Tom Brady. There's not a lot of talent there, and that 4.5 sticks. It's hard to win under 4 games in the NFL, but with this actual schedule and this roster, that's probably a reality here for the New England Patriots.
Second hardest schedule in all of the NFL, according to Sharp Football Analytics. It is a gauntlet, and it does a rookie quarterback in Drake May no favors. Quickly here, Donnie, before we get deeper into New England's inefficiencies for this roster overall, Who do you think starts week number 1? The veteran Jacoby Brissett or the rookie Drake May for New England?
1,000%. This team stinks right now. It should be Jacoby Brissett. Let him earn his paycheck and get his head beat in on a week-to-week basis and give a soft landing late in the season for Drake May. If this team had any talent, nobody would argue a kid of Drake May's ilk getting drafted that high should not be the day one starter, and he should be. But it doesn't make any sense. If you want to turn this into a David Carr scenario from back in the day with the Houston Texans when he's the number 1 overall pick and came to a team that couldn't block, he got ruined right away. Don't ruin your young quarterback. Ruin Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think further in that kind of explanation is not only the disastrously hard schedule to start the year, which would make any rookie quarterback have some very large growing pains, but the roster and maybe the lack of talent around the quarterback position in Foxborough, either Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. A lot of people look at Bill Belichick the last few years after Tom Brady left at the end of the 2020 NFL campaign or the end of the 2019 NFL campaign. And they say, hey, Bill didn't quite have it without Tom despite making the postseason with Mac Jones a few years ago. Outside of that, though, Donnie, even more importantly in my estimation is the footing in Foxborough that Belichick left Gerard Mayo. The roster, because Bill was also the head coach and the GM, is abysmal. Draft disaster decisions, terrible free agency moves that have left New England in an awful spot. I would not want to be a part of where things stand for the Patriots this season.
No, and you're right. And also Bill Belichick changing his stripes later on. Do you remember for all those years how smart the Patriots were? They never spent money in the first couple weeks of free agency. Why? Because they had Tom Brady. He could make up for all those inefficiencies. The minute Tom Brady left, what did they do? Well, let me try to go out and recreate Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski at tight end and spend money like a drunken sailor. And none of that worked here. He was grasping at straws late in the game here, and we'll see. And that's a byproduct of what you're going to get. 4.5 win total for the Patriots. I got to tell you, as a Patriot hater, most people are outside of New England, you got to love to see it.
Everybody else has a 5.5 win total, including the Panthers, and the over even has the juice in Carolina. Hour 3 comes your way next. You're on the early line.